my friends, welcome to DISNEY Dreamlight Valley. Today, we're gonna do some science. We're gonna look at some numbers, we're gonna look at some statistics, and we're gonna talk about Dreamsnaps. I want to give a huge shout out to Oscar's Cozy Corner. He made a video yesterday about Dreamsnaps and how Gameloft is secretly lowering the results, the amount of moons, and how the brackets for Moonstones have been lowered secretly recently, so now less people actually can get into 4K rank or any rank. Anyway, we're gonna jump into it a little bit later, but I have been sitting on a lot of data because I have over 200,000 rankings for the Dreamsnaps on the portal, and I decided, let's put this data to a good use. Let's build some graphs, let's run some statistics, and try to figure out, is it actually possible that we are now getting less Moonstones for our Dreamsnaps and no one even knew about it? Subscribe for more science and more DISNEY Dreamlight Valley, and check out Oscar's video because he's going into it in much more detail and touching some subjects that we might not cover in this video. The link in the description. Alright, so first of all, let's talk about what happened 2 weeks ago. If you take a look at Wonder in Christmas Town Dreamsnap, I believe this was the last Dreamsnap that basically used the same logic and ranking algorithm that existed before from day one of Dreamsnaps. After this Dreamsnaps, major changes have happened to Dreamsnaps in more way that you might realize. Way number one, if you compare the scores, if you look, rank 1 has a score of 8742, and on average, the scores were reaching all the way up to 100. The theory is you get a score from 0 to 100 based on your tag items and also based on your voting. If you take a look at the next challenge right after it, until Midnight Transformation, you can see that the highest score was 2887, which signals a huge change. So it looks like the highest possible score right now is about 30, which I don't know why this was necessary, but there is also another very, very major change that I haven't seen anybody mention, is if you look at the Wonder at Christmas Town, there are actually submissions that have the same rank. If you know, we used to have troves of people getting exactly the same rank. People would even joke around that this is default rank this week because probably like 100 plus people would get the same rank, and there would be a couple of these ranks throughout the brackets where people would place in the same rank. You can, if you scroll through the results, you can see this happening all the time. It was incredibly common. For example, we have two people who got ranked 24, and they had the same score, 83, 88, so that makes sense. The same score equals the same rank, but it doesn't always happen this way. If you scroll a little bit further, you can see two submissions with rank 42, which also have the same score, but then just a little bit lower, you can see two submissions with rank 67, and the score being different, not just by 0.1, the score is significantly different. One is 83.29, one is 83.42. And then you can see a couple more submissions of the same rank with these exact scores. But then the submission that has rank 8341, just 0.1 lower than rank 67, gets thrown straight into the rank 78. Don't ask me how this works. I don't know the logic. I didn't make the rules, but apparently that was some kind of a glitch because this doesn't seem like it makes any sense, right? Well, guess what? 2 weeks ago, this has been fixed as well. If you look at the Until Midnight Transformation, I tried to find submissions with the same rank. I couldn't. Even submissions with exactly the same score, which before would have been placed in the same rank, have different ranks. We have rank 50 and rank 51 with exactly the same score, which makes me think if the score that we're getting is just a rounded version, so maybe the score itself has much more numbers after 0, like maybe it has the precision of like 7 to 8 numbers after 0, but we're only getting the first 2, so technically the score of this person might be slightly better, but it's so slightly that we cannot even see it now. But then once again, since 2 weeks ago, there is no two people sharing the same rank in the entire list. I have checked. That glitch has been fixed. There's been a few submissions that showed up as the same rank, but I verified every single one of them. There was only 5, and all of them were caused by typos or just uploading the wrong challenge results. So it's official. There is no more duplicate ranks. If you're getting a rank, from now on, you can be sure that you're going to be the only one with that rank. Now, this could mean many things. Maybe the score is calculated differently now. Maybe they finally stopped counting the tags and they just dropped it and just kept the part of the score that is responsible for voting. Or maybe they dropped the voting and just kept the part responsible for the score. But we don't know. We don't know, and we'll never find out until Gameloft will tell us. But if I were to guess, they definitely changed the way the score is calculated. So I hope the change is for the best, and we're going to see less robberies, and the results are going to be much more fair from now on. But the one can dream. And this brings us to the final change, or at least the final one that we noticed so far, is the ranking brackets. So if you go to Disney Dreamlight Valley Wiki, this has been the brackets basically since the beginning. And Wiki states that these are approximate values based on community data collection. So right now, the baseline is 300. Then if you reach top 70%, you're going to get 600. If you reach top 55%, you're going to get 900. Top 40%, 1200. Top 20%, 1500. And top 12.5%, 2500. And top 7.5%, 4000. So this is important because these are not official numbers. And if you look at Oscar's video, he actually managed to find these numbers into the cached data sent from the server of Disney Dreamlight Valley. And this is the screenshot from Oscar's video. Interestingly enough, before, officially, top 5% was 4,000 Moonstones. And then the brackets were 10%, 20%, 30, 50, and 75, which doesn't actually match the wiki. In fact, the difference is very drastic, especially for the 4K rank. From top 5 to top 7.5%, that's a huge difference. And according to Oscar, the same cached game files now showing the new rankings. He doesn't know exactly when it happened, but apparently in January, the values are, for 4K, you're going to need to be in top 4%, then top 8% for 2500, top 17% for 1500, top 26% for 1200, top 45% for 900, top 69%, nice Gameloft, come on, for 600, and top 100%, obviously, for 300. So the change is staggering, especially for reaching 4K. You might say 1% difference. It's not that much. But if you look at the next chart that Oscar provides, he shows exactly how much harder it is to reach the new rank. And to reach 4K or even 2500 Moonstones is now 20% harder, which is a lot. But looking at this data, I have some questions. I don't exactly know why would Gameloft even send the brackets to the front end. I dug a little bit about it, and from what I see, these values are just stored in like a JSON file, which is, as far as I can tell, is not even used for anything, because we don't have anything in the game that displays these rankings. There is no like a table that we can look at. There is no leaderboard where this would be relevant. The game gets your rank and your reward in your mailbox. That's it. It's not calculated using these brackets at the moment it arrives. It already arrives knowing your rank, your reward, and your score. Those values just pass from the server. So the only place where these values would even matter would be when the rankings are calculated every Wednesday in the end of the voting period. So, and also the format in which the data is passed to the front end is not in a usable format. It's most likely meant for display purposes, but then again, it's never displayed anywhere. So it feels like it's a redundant piece of data that is just sent to the game itself for no reason. The game doesn't need to know about these brackets. All it needs to know is your reward, your rank, and your score. So that made me kind of question, are these numbers even correct? Because we know for a fact that these numbers are not directly used in calculating our final rankings, because they can have completely different set of numbers on the server, and those numbers are the correct ones. Those numbers are the ones that matter when the calculations are completed. There's no way the game calculates your ranking inside your own game. It has to happen all on the server. The server has to be aware of all of the values from all of the voting history, all of the tags, everything about every single Dreamsnap, and then apply brackets based on the final scores. But it just doesn't make sense to send this data to the game. I'm not saying that this data is wrong. I'm just saying that it doesn't mean 100% that the data used on the server is the same that the data is sent, for whatever reason, sent to the game. And also the discrepancy between the wiki values and the values that were in that file is quite large. So I decided to do some science. I have compiled all the data that I have on Dreamsnaps from all 200,000 results submitted to Dreamers Portal. And I've ran it through some algorithms trying to figure out how did the brackets shake down based on the information that we have. Basically what I did, I took the lowest rank that was submitted as the number of submissions for that challenge. Now, obviously, we cannot know for a fact that that was the lowest rank, but this is going to give us the closest approximation that we can get. Then I also took the lowest rank for every single reward. So the longest rank for 4K, the lowest rank for 2500, and basically calculated the brackets based on that information. Now, once again, this is not the precise data. We have only 200,000 submissions split between 128 challenges, meaning that we only have about maybe 10-15% of the data, which is not a lot, but also not too bad. I don't know any other place where you can get more than 10% results for all the Dreamsnaps that's been ever submitted. Based on this data, a few fun numbers. There's been at least 17,369,000 Dreamsnaps ever submitted, and I'm saying at least because I can only know about the lowest submission rank. So there's probably people lower in every challenge that just never uploaded to the portal. So this number is most definitely much higher. So it's still an incredible number. Also, on average, there is 135,000 submissions. But then once again, this takes into account the older challenges. And the amount of snaps people submitted for those challenges is much lower. Also, the participation was much lower. So right now, the average is much higher. And the maximum, the lowest, basically the lowest rank ever submitted to the portal, which means the maximum submissions that are 100% confirmed for a challenge, was 260,507, which is insane a number. And this was, let's see which challenge this was. Big Feels. Oh, that makes perfect sense. A lot of Inside Out fans. Big Feels, so far as we know, had the highest participation of all Dreamsnaps in history of Dreamsnaps. Alright, so let's get to the data. So what did I do? I basically calculated the brackets for every single Moonstone reward and made a graph. So this graph basically shows the percentages, the calculated rank from the data we have. Now, obviously, it's going to be all over the place. There is also a factor that a lot of people mistyped their results. So there's a lot of submissions that actually have the wrong rank. I tried to write a couple algorithms to try to eliminate those submissions. So if the submission has like wildly different ranking from all other submissions in the same category, in the same bracket, it's not going to be counted for this, but there is still going to be a certain amount of error. And also just the fact that for this to be 100% accurate, we need all the data. Some challenges you might not have the lowest 300 Moonstone submission rank recorded. In some, we might not have a bunch of the lowest submissions for specific Moonstones. For example, the bottom 100 ranks who got 4K didn't upload anything to the portal that week. That's going to skew the number significantly. But I think it kind of shakes out to be pretty fair because since we don't have all the submissions, the total number of submissions is most likely higher, but so is the total number of submissions for each rank. So overall, I think this should represent a pretty accurate picture of what are actual percentages for every bracket in the game. And did the last 2 weeks actually lower those brackets? Now, I can answer the last questions right now. If you look at the 4K distribution across all the challenges ever, and this is the 2 latest weeks, you can see that these are the lowest values, absolutely the lowest values we've ever had in a long time. The only 2 weeks where the value were lower were challenge 87, 81, which was Welcome to Toontown, and then once again, it's totally possible that people maybe didn't submit the correct rankings, or there was just not enough people to submit low 4K rankings. So this number realistically is probably higher. But if you look at the averages, you can totally see the trend in the last 2 weeks. It's going down. And we're going to need more data, so I'm going to keep monitoring this for weeks to come. And I'm also going to implement some tools that are going to allow our mod team and people who upload their Dreamsnap results to actually validate them. Because amount of typos, there is thousands of typos. I fixed as many of them as I could, but just a little thing I wanted to ask. Please verify your rankings before you click submit button. Sometimes the automatic system gets it wrong. I'm gonna definitely make some improvements for the next update, but still, the more accurate the results are, the more accurate the data like this is going to be. But along 4K, you can clearly see the drop. Then, if we look at 2500, the last 3 weeks actually saw the drop. And this drop is significant. Like, compared to 4K, this is plummeted. Like, these lower numbers, 9s, we haven't seen 9s. Once again, Challenge 81, something happened to it. We're just not going to include it. There was definitely something wrong with it. But look, this is literally the lowest values we've seen pretty much of all times in the last 3 weeks. Then let's take a look at 1500 Moonstones. Once again, if you look at the averages, they are lower than the rest of the columns, which means the brackets are lower, which means less people are going to get in those brackets, which means it's harder to reach higher ranks. So far, this confirms the theory that Gameloft actually made the brackets tougher to get to, which is unfortunate. Definitely very unfortunate. 1200. Same story. Last 3 weeks. For some reason, it says 3 weeks. So maybe they started doing something 3 weeks ago, and then they finalized it 2 weeks ago, because 4K didn't drop. Maybe they lowered other ranks, but didn't lower the 4K rank, and then they lowered 4K to match it. I don't know what happened, but literally every single metric shows that the last 3 weeks, all of the rankings have been more difficult to get to. If you look at 600 actually, well, once again, there's clearly somebody made a big typo here in this week, so we're going to disregard it. But on average, you can see about 80%. And last 3 weeks, it's been around 70. Still not a huge decrease, but still significant. So yeah, let's think about it. So let's take a look at 4K. Let's try to figure out, was the bracket before actually 5% or was it 7.5? If we look at the average results, I would say it's very close to 6. Some weeks it reached 7.6. But most of the weeks, it did not reach 7.5%. So that makes the theory that it was 5% actually very plausible. Because I think people are more likely to upload 4K results than they are upload to 300 results. And those 300 results are actually crucial for determining how many total entries. So this means that potentially there is more entries. And if there is more entries, then this number would be lower. So we should lower. It's more likely this number is actually lower than it's actually higher. So it's definitely not 7.5%. So my guess, it's probably 5%. Even though the number actually shakes out to 6%. There are so many weeks where we literally have 6%. But then once again, how likely it is that we got the lowest ever submission on the portal. So I would lower this by a bit. So 5% seems to be what it used to be. And now by the same logic, if we're going to lower this, it seems like the last 2 weeks we've been having around 4% of actual 4K ranking, which is, as Oscar said, 20% more difficult to get. Let's take a look at 2500 Moonstones. So it used to be, I would say, around 12%. If we use this 12%, by the same logic, we can subtract about 1% and make it about 10%, which once again fully aligns with the numbers that Oscar provided. So this actually adds more validity to those numbers, because they're now kind of matching the actual data of the results that people are getting. And Wiki was a little bit too optimistic. I feel like there is no way this was 12.5%, because almost none of the numbers actually go above 12.5. And as we know, it's biased towards upside already, so it's more likely to be 10%. It literally seems like if you take the average and subtract 1%, you're actually getting the right number. Let's take a look at 1500. Here we got 21%, 20%. Once again, this clearly looks to me like a 20% bracket. A few outliers, obviously, but on average, it used to be 20% bracket. Now it's more of a 17, 16, slightly lower. 1200s used to be 30%. Yeah, seems about right. 31 on average. I still don't know what happened to the challenge 81, but this data is fully messed up here. 30 used to be, now it's a little bit lower. Then 900 Moonstones. This one is, I think, around 50. Yeah, 50% makes sense. A lot of the numbers give you solid 50. Like, this is crazy how accurate this is. And some of them a little bit bigger, but this is definitely not, I think, 60%. Oh, Wiki claims 55%. That's actually pretty close. And then 600 Moonstones, Wiki claimed 70%, but the actual data claims 75%, which is actually seems to be pretty consistent with that number as well. Yeah, so this is cool. This is cool. So we've been actually already getting much lower rankings, and now they got even lower. It's too early to say for a fact, but we need a couple more weeks of data, and then we'll be able to see a better picture. I will make this page public when the next update goes live, so we can analyze all of the challenges that are going to come out later, and just going to compile all the results to be able to see this graph and compare all the challenges just for fun, since I already have it done. But yeah, very interesting. Now let's talk about what does it mean. Do we take our pitchforks and protest the Gameloft? I've seen a lot of comments saying that the main problem is that Gameloft did it silently, without like almost secretly. But to be fair, and I have a little counter argument, that Gameloft never actually revealed these numbers to begin with. All of the speculation, even the Wiki article just claimed that these were derived from actual performances, and it was never public, it was never officially disclosed. So technically, can we actually say that they reduced it secretly? For what we know, they've been playing around with those numbers for all these years, just lowering them, increasing them, just trying to find the best ratio. Who knows? One thing I do know is that Dreamsnaps felt like they were a little bit too good to be true. So I'm honestly surprised they didn't do it much sooner, lowering the brackets. Now, I'm not happy about this. Don't get me wrong. Like this is gonna mess up a lot of 4K streaks. This is gonna get much more difficult to get to those higher rankings. I'm just saying it kind of makes sense on its own in the isolation, but if you take a lot of other things that go with it. For example, just simply the lower quality control of the items we get from Premium Shop, the huge shift from Premium Shop to being just a huge advertisement for Dreamsnaps, or vice versa. So basically, they're forcing you to buy... well, they're not forcing you. Once again, you can do these Dreamsnaps without having the matching Premium Shop items from that week. But it kind of gives you the fear of missing out. It gives you... trying to make you think that if I get this item from Premium Shop that fits this challenge perfectly, maybe I'm going to make those Moonstones back because I'm going to get high rank. It's a slight psychological trick. Let's be honest, every single company who advertises, they do use psychology to try to make their ads as effective as possible. So on its own, once again, all of these things on its own might not be a bad thing. But if you combine all of these things, if we combine like the lowering of the quality of the items, lowering the quality of the updates with increased focus on Premium Shop and trying to push those items as much as possible, and now even lowering the potential Moonstones that people can earn, all of that together creates not so nice, such a nice picture, and it does scare me a little. I also understand that this game is past its prime, and they still need to keep bringing revenue to keep the game alive. So there is two options, and we have no way of knowing. Number one, Gameloft is doing great, but they saw an opportunity that if we lower this, if we change this, we can make even more money. That's one possibility. The other possibility, which in my opinion is probably more likely, is Gameloft is not doing so great. The development and maintenance of the game, keep releasing new updates, is just not bringing as much money as needed to keep it running, so they are literally forced to try to do things to bring in more money, and these decisions are not driven by pure greed, but by just wanting to survive and keep this game updated and going for their player base for as long as humanly possible. And if that's the case, then I would say do what you gotta do, Gameloft. Just make sure to not overdo it. Here's some interesting statistic. This is Steam database. Basically shows the amount of active players since the game was released. So on the day of release, they had 11,456 players. Then obviously it drops off, then it picks up on the updates, then it drops off, then it picks up on the updates. This was the DLC that was released last year. This was the DLC that was released this year. And as you can see, the game reached more players than it had even when the game... I mean, it reached about the same amount of players when the game went early access, which is pretty incredible considering how old this game is. And since then, it did taper off a little bit down to 8,000, which makes perfect sense. But it's still not as low as it was, for example, in 2024, or even on these lows between the updates. It's kind of expected. Overall, the chart is not looking bad. It looks like DISNEY Dreamlight Valley is doing really good right now. One of the best periods for its existence. So this makes me kind of wonder why making these decisions now when they're actually doing good? Why not capitalize on players' love for the game? Instead, what they're gonna do, if they're gonna keep pushing these changes that skews the game towards Premium Shop and monetization, what they're gonna do, they're just gonna alienate their player base who are supporting their game. People are willing to spend money if it makes sense. And I think if they think that reducing the amount of Moonstones people get from Dreamsnaps is gonna incentivize them to spend more, I think it might actually have completely opposite effect. I feel like people are willing to spend more if they feel like the game is fair, if the developers care about the players. If they get a sense that the game is becoming greedy, they're gonna completely shut it off. They're gonna stop spending in protest. They're gonna speak with their wallets, and it's not gonna be good for DISNEY Dreamlight Valley. So whatever is going on, I'm not gonna make any accusations. I'm not gonna be like, oh, Gameloft is evil company trying to squeeze us for all the money. For all I know, there could be legitimate reason why they need to do this, and it makes sense from their perspective, and they're not just driven by greed, but by legitimate concerns that they're trying to address. But whatever is happening, I think that they need to take really long look at their direction, where they think the game is going, and just try to find the balance between monetization and keeping their player base happy. Instead of giving us less Moonstones and potentially making people, trying to make people spend more money, they should maybe make better quality items to incentivize them that way. Maybe they should focus on making the Scrooge store items, which if people feel like they're getting pretty good items, like if they fix some of the things that people are the most angry about the game, and I feel like Scrooge store is number one in that regard right now. If they fix it, people are just going to be more happier playing the game, and happy player base means they potentially would be willing to spend more money because they feel like their voices have been heard. So I really hope that I'm not making this video to try to bash Gameloft or to try to say that DISNEY Dreamlight Valley is screwed up or anything like this. I just like numbers and I like science. It was super fun to make the algorithm to calculate all those numbers. And it does seem, once again, pure speculation, but from everything that I've seen, it does seem that it's now harder to get Moonstones, which means, number one, gotta make sure that those Dreamsnaps are top quality. Nowadays, it's as important as ever to maybe not go too far out of the box, not make super risky submissions. There's always a way to mix enough creativity into like safe strategies of how to try to keep your rankings high while still having your own creative touch and make snaps that are unique from all other snaps. I think it's still possible to do both. But yeah, Gameloft has been doing an incredible job with DISNEY Dreamlight Valley, and I hope this video, if any of the people in Gameloft actually end up watching this, I just want you guys to know that we love almost everything you've done with the game. We love how you listen to this community and implement all the things that we ask for. Sometimes it takes a while, but we understand. And we just want this game to be around for as long as possible. I know you know what you're doing, probably. You have all the numbers. You have smart people working there. So I'm gonna trust you because you didn't give me a reason not to trust you yet. But the community is concerned with the direction it seems like the game might be going. So I hope we're all wrong, and I hope we're gonna be back to business as usual, and we're gonna have some great updates in the future, and all our fears are gonna come to be unfounded. That's all I have to say. Thank you so much for watching, and yeah, that's all I got. I'm gonna go back to the portal and keep working on the next update. I'm trying to get it done by the end of this month. It's gonna be a big one. Games are coming to Dreamers Portal. Not just any games. You'll be able to play games with your fellow dreamers. And I'm not going to say more right now. You'll find out soon enough. Thank you so much for watching. Huge thanks to all amazing supporters. And I'll see you in the next one. Take care.
Oh, nice day we're having, isn't it?
Oh, it's wonderful. Woohoo!
Amazing. Gotta tell you, it is really beautiful here. Hey, nice to see you.
Oh, hello.
Are you seeing this?